Today is the last episode of 2025. Can you actually believe this year has been passing so quickly? So what's your holiday plan, Kiet?
We're just going to do a bit of camping in the New Year's. It does feel like one of those natural pause points. How about you, Charlotte? Anything exciting?
Trying to buy a gift to different people, which I actually do enjoy gifting because this is a moment to reflect a little bit about what the person like. And then I feel like it's a quite mindful process there as well.
Nice.
It's the end of the year. So number one, we really want to say thank you to everyone who has been on this journey with us so far. Regarding you are part of the guest participants, people who leave comments and share personal notes with us on all this community, or come to say hi to us in the meetup we have in the Atlassians this year. We just wanted to say thank you so much to staying with us. At the same time, we also want to spend some time to reflect what has been like for the product house, because we have some very interesting stats and also some interesting facts about the podcast we wanted to share with you. In the meantime, I think it's also really important to do a little bit of reflection with you, both about the podcast and also around the personal growth from me and Kiet as well.
Yeah, we usually don't talk about our numbers with our audience, but this year we've made so many new experiments and tried different things. Just give you a top level summary, right? But the things we've tried differently, these include the new PM Spotlight series, where we started to invite people to join into the show to talk about their career stories and journeys in product. We pivoted into audio and video with our YouTube channel. We've had, as Charlotte mentioned, an in-person event at Atlassian, which was a whole heap of fun. And we also abandoned our Reddit community. Neither of us wanted to deal with the UX of Reddit. So we stuck to LinkedIn as our main community engagement source so that Charlotte wouldn't go crazy.
Yes, 100%. Oh my God. I don't know. Okay. I like to browsing Reddit, but this is the feedback for any PM.
So bad.
For the Reddit, just not really designed for creators. So as Kia mentioned, as you can hear, like a product house is still really early on. This is the first year we basically do the full year in. It's not the big shows. And so what really stood out to me about what this year is special is really not about the growth of the number. It's actually about how people engage, because we have multiple ways now to engage with our audience, which I find it quite meaningful. So I might share a little bit about our Spotify channel, which is one of the earliest channel we have because we start with audio only. So that channel still be one of the smallest channel among all. So we have about 182 plays this year, and then we have 26 followers on there. So it's on the paper, they are not huge, but Spotify did share some really useful insight with us.
Spot on. So the end of year creator wrap up, they also create one for creators. What we will categorize as was a marathon show, which means listeners stayed with us more than 64% of other podcasts. We're also listed as the most shared show. We were shared more than 90% of other shows, and a fan fave as well. So what that means is on average, our rating was higher than 75% of podcasts.
Which is really incredible. Like, it means a lot to us, because what is basically telling me is we don't have a lot of people pressing play, but for the people who hit the play, they actually stay. And then the most important of that, most of them actually sharing the episode with their family and friends. And that really means a lot because people find the topic relevant and useful.
Then onto YouTube, which is brand new, right? We launched only in August. And so far, we've had over 7,000 lifetime views, close to 8,000 impressions. There's a very strong
video.
Yeah. There's a very strong watch through weight as well. So it's clear to us that in terms of discoverability, at least for our content, YouTube is definitely the better channel.
Yeah, basically 8,000 people have impression at us. Most of them actually transit to become like they watch something with us, which is great.
Conversion rate's great, yeah.
Conversion rate is great. However, we only have 20 subscribers on YouTube, which also tell us something very clear. Is number one, people are watching, but we haven't been good enough to asking them to stay and subscribe. And so if you are currently listening to this episode and haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do it now, because that really helping other product house in the community to find out the episode. So what about LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn is interesting because it is our primary engagement channel since February. We've grown to just over 100 followers with nearly 11,000 or 12,000 impressions and 260 plus unique visitors, and lots of thoughtful reactions and comments, which both Charlotte and I really appreciate.
It is, but we have to apologize. Sometimes we reply really slow in some of these comments. It's just simply because Kiet and I are just not naturally good with all the linking and social media stuff. But we are learning. We're learning 2026. We're going to do it better as well. But for me, this is actually probably one of the biggest signals for me this year is I think from the product house work best, not just purely by creating contents, actually what we are good at. And then also I think what the community asking us to do is around creating meaningful conversations and relevant conversations and building a safe community for other people, other product manager to share their views and to shine there.
Yeah.
So that is something that we really wanted to do a little bit more in the new year as well.
I remember during our conversations earlier, even when we did our retro, it was very clear there were a couple of directions we could have taken it if all we wanted to was grow and get more engagement. And we really did want to stick with the original plan and the vision we had for Product Pal. So, Charlotte, in our personal reflections, what's the one moment from our podcasting this year that's stayed with you the most?
This is really hard because I just have so many moments in this podcast. And this podcast this year has been a pretty big part of my life as well, to be honest. I started a new business, and then apart from the work, podcast is my safe space to essentially connecting with other people, reflect my thinking. So podcast has been a really big part of my 2025 for me. So it's actually really difficult to pick a particular moment. But if I have to do, I probably have to go with the conversation with Will, because that's the first. So Will essentially, I think, joined us early this year as literally the first guest ever for Product House. We never done any kind of guest interview. And what's most interesting part is we're actually doing a non-product topic. We're talking about men's mental health. Why we decide to do that, I think it was also very interesting, is because me and Will is actually meet each other in the conference, stay connections on and off, in the last 10 years. And I think in one of the recent connect, out of blue, we start talking a little bit more about mental health and how that it is actually a really important topic in the workplace, but people don't talk about it. Because people talking about physical health, when you're broken the bones, they're taking day off, they go to hospital, fix their bones. But people don't talking about when they have experienced the mental health, they're taking well-being leaves, and then what actually happened there. People don't talk about it. And then that actually made me realize how important the topic actually it is, especially for us, people working in the tech space. That's something that we experience day to day, but then we don't talk about it. So essentially we make a decision to invite Will to have the conversation, but it was quite difficult, to be very honest, to have the conversation because Kiet doesn't know well enough, and Kiet worry about going to cross the boundary and asking some personal questions. And that is Will's first ever speaking in the podcast setting. And he's really nervous about what he can share, what he can't share. I was very nervous about the whole thing because I haven't done my mental health first aid courses during the time. I don't feel like I have the right language to talk about the subject matter as well. So if people who actually go back to listen to the episode, you will hear it is a little bit kind of awkward. And then, however, we feel so heartwarming afterwards is it's a podcast that helping us to have so much connection with each other, because after the episode, well, me and Kiet talk with each other all the time, but me and Will starting to have monthly kind of lunch, just face-to-face meeting with each other, checking with each other. And then also from the community perspective, we receive so many personal notes and the feedback from people from community about their experience about these subject matters. And that's why we have to do a bonus episode actually afterwards to share some of the personal feedback that we receive. So even until now, like this episode is still one of the most listened episode for the product house. So what does that really tell me is this is actually an important subject that people are ready to talk about, and people are ready to hearing it and sharing it as well. That's just remind me sometimes some of the conversation it's not always about the number of the audience, it's not about like how that align with our growth. It is actually about the people, what the community care about.
Yeah, spot on. I actually didn't know that you were doing regular catch-ups with Will as well. Slightly envious because I'm not in Sydney, but it was one of my favourite episodes as well. One of the key takeaways I took from that was we really should treat mental health the same way we treat physical health. The language around it has changed quite a fair bit, or just being comfortable sharing that you are battling with mental health. And it's a type of conversation that brings people together so much. I think became the catalyst for us in our format to open up to start to ask people to share about their lives a little bit more as well. So I think that was the legacy of that conversation as it affected how we ran Product Pals.
100%. Yeah. So Kiet, what about you? What is the moment that actually stayed with you?
Yeah. One of the most consistent themes kind of across all the people that we interviewed was that regardless of whether they're different backgrounds, different industries, and even stages in their career, most of them express feelings of being out of place. I think a lot of it was navigating organizations that aren't built for product thinking, trying to influence without authority, the old saying, within their different organizations and systems, right? Just to remind me, as product managers, we're not alone in this, and we're all just trying to figure it out as we go.
That's a really good reflections. There were so many different product manager we speak to this year. To be honest, it really broadened like my horizons about how many different type of product manager in the industry, and then how different their experience are, but then how similar and different at the same time about some of the challenging they are facing. They all have a uniqueness, but there's also a similar theme in some way as well. So I'm also curious, Kiet, so among all of these conversations, which one is the one that really, really moved you?
I have two, actually. The one with Cheryl Saw.
Oh, yeah.
There was a moment where it was amazing. There was a moment where she talked about being offered a role at Adobe globally, and she made the decision to pass on it. That was a really cool and insightful moment. And the other one, obviously, was the mental health chat with Will as well. And they both really resonated with me because I've had similar experiences in my career with young kids. I've had to be a lot more deliberate about where I put my attention. So for me, just realizing that I can still create impact and value, but how I prioritize my time has changed quite a lot in the last decade or so, and being okay with that as well. So how about you?
Yeah, people always talking about being a parent is like a full-time job. Then suddenly you starting to have two full-time jobs. Now, how do you prioritize it between your two full-time jobs? Yeah, it's amazing what you guys do. So for me, I have a lot, but I probably will pick two as well. So I think number one, I'm going to pick Larry. So Larry, who is the product lead of the TikTok. So to be very honest, I never download a TikTok ever. It's our first premium spotlight, but I never download a TikTok in my phone even until now. So I'm not a social media person in general. In the conversation with him, this is the first time I understand how different, the product work in the social media in the environment than the normal product environment. And then there was one advice he giving to all the current product managers and future product manager in responding to how AI is going to disrupt our profession, which I found it quite powerful there. Essentially what he say is about the importance of our curiosity. So even he believed that all the roles of the product manager is going to change. And however, being curious about a human behavior will always serve this professional. No matter what this profession is going to be, as long as you stay curious, there is going to be some sort of problem, and there is always going to be a role regarding what it called, which has been really powerful. And the other things was around brave, and the point that was from Diane, actually, she has always been asking to thinking outside the box to solve particular problems in the context when she was a customer support. And then she started challenging about when everyone else is asking me to solve outside the box, is the box right? And that actually stick with me, not only from her context around being a customer support to PM lens, but also as a product manager or just a business owner or whatever role they were playing. People always like to put us into the box. And we also been in a lot of box as well. And it's very easy for us to starting to become almost like a waiter of the feedback, starting to take yes for everything they tell us we should do and implement it. I feel like the whole thing's mindset about to have a courage to challenging about all the assumption, the box around us to say, is that even the right box for us to be in? It's such a brave thing to do. And it's such an important mindset to have. So so these two moments, essentially being curious and then being brave to challenging the assumption around you, really stick with me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yes, and 2 episodes that is quite distant in terms of the spectrum of product as well. And I think that's what I love about the work that we do here, which is every guest has been quite unique. And personally, I've learned something new in every episode we've had so far. So I guess looking ahead, what do we want to do differently in 2026?
That's a really hard question. I don't really know what's 2026 holding for us. But one thing I think is pretty obvious to me is I wanted to do a little bit more connection work. I wanted to connecting the people from different experience and different industry basically come together. So I think we were doing a little bit reflections when we were in the room in Melbourne this week. So I think there was kind of 2 problem space particularly interesting in. I think number one is because of the massive kind of a shift happening in the tech space, in the AI, the PM community, we are at the center of this change as well. We can see some of our product managers are starting moving to AI PM space. And some of the PMs are following the end-to-end, going full stack to become the PM engineer or basically started picking up some design technical skills as well. And some of the PMs, just like me, starting to riding the wave and starting to start their own business. And then a few of them actually leaving the industry completely because they are really worried about the future of this particular industry. They're actually going to the completely other side. So for me in 2026, I'm curious about where everyone's going. I'm really wanting to keep track of some of these transitions because I've been through some of these transitions and I'm going through this transition at the moment as well. So I know how difficult and tough that can be and how lonely that actually can feel like. So I would love Product House to continue building and creating a safe harbor and for people like us going through all of these together, regarding which path they are going. I just want us to have a space to feel like we can have honest conversation about what they feel like, feel supported, and hopefully sharing something useful for other people who are going through the journey as well.
Yeah, in essence, it's doubling down on our initial vision of what Product House was trying to be, right? I think the second problem space we wanted to explore is how product actually works outside of big tech. You could find product playbooks for large tech organizations. So the second problem space we wanted to explore is around how product actually works outside of big tech. And you could find product playbooks for large tech organizations, right? And reflecting on, Charlotte, you've mentioned this quite a lot of times in stepping in the world of startup where, and also
people doesn't work, basically.
And we've noticed that in kind of working with a lot of non-tech focused industries or organizations, right? It really is very, very different from what you traditionally would expect or idealized versions of product. The language is different, the processes are different, the way you prioritize and the systems are different, right? There isn't just a shared way to talk about product or innovation in those environments and
people
systems.
don't talk about it. That's the problem. I think in my opinion, it's just that in the startup world and non-product industry, people don't talk about it as much, not as obsessed about the product playbook as how the big tech doing it. However, I do feel like there is a little bit gap around if you don't talk about it, how you operate it, how do you learn, how do you improve from there?
Totally underappreciated. So I think in the next year, we want to go a bit deeper in how those two connect as well.
Yeah, so really, really looking forward to 2026 because we actually have quite a lot of exciting ideas. We have some amazing speaker lineup as well, and then some like amazing idea about to pull the trigger off. So stay tuned. I just wanted to changing the direction a little bit because we have been doing a lot of reflection about the podcast itself. So I think it might be useful for me and Kiet using this opportunity to do a little bit reflections about our personal growth in 2025. So, Kia, when you look back at 2025, what changed the most of you?
I've been relatively open about this during the podcast. For me, it's learning to manage my own energy and time better, both professionally and doing this as a hobby for now. I think learning to deal with ADHD as an adult has been quite an interesting journey for me. And I think the biggest learning was acknowledging it in the first place has been huge in learning to just be kinder to myself and my internal dialogue. How about you?
I don't know, 2025, I feel like I'm a new person because I make a new step from moving from corporate world to startup world to running my own company, to be more specific, which is the journey. I know it's going to be hard, but I guess until you're leaving it, you didn't know it was this hard. Yeah. It's a really big change in me in regarding to, I guess, physically as well, because I literally need to physically running around to different places at different times actually require a lot of physical mental energy. So that's why I started to do a lot of exercise this year to keep my stamina up. I do way more sports and eating healthy habit and all this drinking habit just to keep my energy up to be able to run through the day, go through all the meeting, all the places, all the needs like from people for me. And then the other thing is a mindset shift because when I'm the PM, there's a lot of context switching. And then, so I thought, when I become a product business owner, it will be fine because it is context switching as well among different projects. But then I realized it's slightly different type of the context. I wouldn't say being a PM is less tiring than a business owner, but the only challenging for me as a business owner, the reason why that mentally is more exhaustive for me is because I also need to learn the role at the same time. Because when I'm a PM, there's certainty about all different tasks I need to do. But then in the kind of business owner world, there's context switching, but at the same time, I basically have to learn every single context at the same time when I'm switching it.
Yeah.
That has been quite demanding for me mentally and physically, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I forget because it's been way too long since I've depended on my own business to pay a paycheck being a product manager for an organization. At least you don't have to worry about your paycheck every month, right? Having that additional context to think about as well makes it very real.
Yeah. And that is something that I'm actually really looking forward to learn, reflect, consult, and share a little bit more in the new year as well. Because even some of the model, I learned some of the model around this, about the first stage of the business. You have founder, learning, running the business, doing the delivery, doing the sales, doing the admin, and while bringing all the positive energy, I guess, in the business to keep the momentum up. And then there's a second stage, the third stage. And there's actually the whole framework, business model framework around that as well. And then, but again, this is something that we don't talk about. I don't talk about it when I was as a product manager in the business. So for me, this is probably the biggest change. Is a whole paradigm, almost a shift for me. It almost like open a new world, exploring the new world. It gave me a lot of excitement, but also a lot of kind of stress at the same time. So yeah, no, I think that's actually quite an interesting experience.
On the theme of big changes, what's one thing you had to let go of?
Well, that is something that I feel like I'm letting go of. I'm not let go yet. Is I used to have a mindset that I need to be the one to do it all because that's the only way to do it the way how I want it. Because I'm someone who really like to have a plan and execute a plan the way how I did it. And that's why I have a pretty strong opinion when I'm a PM about what this product should look like and then how the team should run. However, when I'm operating in a business environment, we have business partner, we have a stakeholder, we have clients, and then we have very limited amount of time, very limited amount of resource. That's when it's a true push for me to learn about sometimes I don't need to be the one to do it all. I really need to learn to lean on other people and then giving them the trust and an assistant for them to do the best in the system, which could mean that some of the outcome may not be 100% how I imagine, how I want it, but it's okay. I need to have the patience, and I need to almost be ready for that imperfect outcome. That, well, in my definition, imperfect outcome, but then basically I need to be okay to let go of that, essentially.
Easier said than done, definitely. And once you figure it out, I might have to get some tips from you.
Oh, really? Okay, so what about you? What's your one thing you wanted to let go?
I won't dwell on it too much, but the key thing for me was that professional ambition versus family time juggle. And what I needed to let go was it's okay. It's acceptable. And for now, the thing I do enjoy and get the most out of life is my kids who are growing up too fast, right? So just focusing on the things that are important.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It is very hard. That's something that I'm not jealous about you guys to have to dealing with, because I wouldn't know at this stage. I wouldn't know if I have another family in the mix to prioritize. How does that going to work ever? So it's a kudos to the people who have a family and trying to run the I guess your career at the same time.
And it's not out of bravery, right? You do what you have to survive. So
that is true. I think this kind of brings us to the end, essentially. So I think before we wrap up, I just wanted to thank you everyone again for listening and sharing this episode, and also taking the time for telling us what is landing for you. And all of your feedback really shapes the show. What we're looking at today is what you tell us what you actually like. So if there's any ideas you want to explore or story you want to share, you want to be part of the interviews, please reaching out and let us know. So Product House works best when you are part of the conversations.
yeah, spot on. So if you've enjoyed the conversation this year, there's a few simple things you can do to support us on Spotify or whatever podcasting app you're using. Follow us and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, like or comment. It really helps other product people find the channel.
Subscribe. See, we have 20 subscribers, but we have 8,000 impressions.
Yes.
We can do better.
Probably our fault for not asking for it. On our key engagement channel, LinkedIn, liking, commenting, and tagging someone who might enjoy it, that goes a long way as well. So
Easy.
please take care over the break, and we'll see you in the New Year's.
Have a good break. See you in 2026.
See ya.